Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Nerd Mode On, and today is Wednesday, so we have yet again another episode of Would You Rather. This is a video series where I'll be going over approximately 5 questions and answering them in the most appropriate manner. So with the rules and guidelines reviewed, let's start off the episode. So coming in at our first Would You Rather question I have, would you rather have to kill the animal for any meat that you eat or never eat meat again? Now when it comes down to it, I feel like I would rather kill the animal for the meat than not have the ability to eat meat, considering that it's just a very important part of the human body in some cases, as well as it kind of builds yourself in different aspects. Not to say that you can't go full vegetarian and still be perfectly healthy, but you kind of do miss out on some things, and I feel like I just don't enjoy that kind of food by itself, so I'm going to go with the unhealthier option, and I'm just going to enjoy the overall tenderness of the meat itself. Coming in at our second question I have, if you were a TV executive, would you rather resurrect your favorite canceled show of all time for one season, or cancel your most hated show? Now for me personally, I feel like I'm going to go with the resurrect my favorite show of all time, considering that there has really been some great TV shows in the last 10 years that have unfortunately had the canceled option thrown upon them, which is really unfortunate in many cases. It's mainly due to viewer base, but when it comes down to it, I feel like there's just some shows that I would love to see finished, or I would love to see what actually happened to this character in the development of the overall story, especially in the terms of the plot. So I feel like this is a better option, considering that there is so many bad shows out there in my opinion that I just don't enjoy. Now I'm sure a show that if I were to list would probably pique some interest in you guys. Maybe it happens to be your favorite show, or maybe you have similar feelings as I do, but there are definitely a lot of shows on the standard television that are just absolutely horrific, and it makes you wonder what person signed that contract to enable that to be on their station. Coming in at our third question I have, would you rather walk across a mile of hot burning coal or walk across a mile of Legos? Now of course, no matter how you look at it, you're either going to be walking on something that just has a very distinguishable feel, especially to it considering that you probably played with it as a child, and I'm imagining most of you guys have probably stepped on them as well, considering that Legos are a pretty notorious and small object for being stepped on. However, with that said, the opposite of this is going to be stepping on something that is extremely hot, that is going to be exponentially uncomfortable, especially when it comes down to it, and I feel like walking a mile on that would just be the most horrendous thing to ever come to my existence. So I feel like the better of two evils would be to step on Legos, considering that maybe you'll get lucky and you actually won't feel the sharp pain of one of them piercing the bottom of your feet, but when it comes down to it, I also realize that having the bottom of your feet burned off basically is not going to be a very enjoyable experience no matter how you look at it. Coming in at our fourth question I have, would you rather be adopted or adopt a child right now? Now when it comes down to it, I feel like I would rather be adopted, considering that I feel like the repercussions don't start to settle in until you get a lot older, and it really depends on what kind of a person you are, if you're going to act in a very likeful manner or if you're going to be very hatred about the overall experience by itself. Now I feel like I wouldn't take it too bad. I feel like if all of a sudden this news was dropped on me, it might be a little overwhelming, but I feel like I would still respect the people for bringing it to my attention, and I wouldn't freak out and become overly rude about the situation, especially if they had brought it to my attention in the beginning stages. Now one of the main reasons I wouldn't adopt a child right now is considering that I'm fairly young. You know, I'm 20 years old at the making of this video, and it feels like it would just be a little bit too much responsibility that I'm not ready for. Not to say that if everything lined up correctly that I would be against this stuff, but I feel like at the moment I would rather have a couple more years to myself, really develop who I want to be, and hopefully get into a career that is a lot more long-term than the current career that I'm in. One of the biggest responsibilities of adopting a child is to make sure everything around it is definitely going to be very functional, and it's going to have the environment that you, probably by yourself, have that's currently in your life. And I feel like I just wouldn't be able to provide that, especially at my age, and I feel like as I get older, the more responsibilities that are going to come, along with a better attitude when it comes down to handling those situations and being a lot more of a problem solver. And finally, coming in at question 5, I have, would you rather always take a cold shower or never feel anything cold? Now for the most part, I feel like I would rather not feel anything cold, considering that that would allow me to go out in the winter and basically never have to freeze to death while the car warms up, which is always a great thing. I feel like that would be a very cool superpower you would have, or an ability that wouldn't affect you, considering that that is definitely a very prolonged period, and I don't really enjoy the cold season by itself. Not to say that I love the hot season. I'm definitely somebody that enjoys a good medium, but by itself I feel like just not having to feel cold would be a little bit better than the other options that would be given. Now one major thing that came to mind, especially when it comes down to not being able to feel cold items or just the cold by itself, would be ice cream would taste very interesting. It would almost taste like syrup, considering that you wouldn't have that cold sensation that would really enhance or amplify the overall taste of what you're eating. And I feel like that would be very interesting to see what ice cream would taste like. I mean, I guess you can do it in today's standards by just sticking it in the microwave and heating it up, and for the most part I would say it doesn't taste terribly bad, but it's definitely not as good as the sharp taste of a cold ice cream cone. But anyway guys, this has been this episode of Would You Rather. Of course, if you guys would like to recommend some questions for the next installation, feel free to let me know in the comments below, considering that I do take your guys' submissions as priority 1, and I'm always interested to see how you guys will respond to the questions, so also feel free to check the description of the video and comment how you guys would have responded to these questions. But when it comes down to it guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you in the next installation, and this has been NMO, and I'm going to be signing out guys. Peace.